Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Business and Opportunities in Ukraine. My name is Mike Wilson. I'm brought to you by Toloka Studios, a fantastic group and organization that puts on quite a few programs specifically for Ukraine. And I'm really thankful for our producers here that put this on and allow me to have space to come to you this evening and each evening every week. And also brought to you by Andesite Blue, a company that I've co-founded and the CEO of. And so our company is really designed in the investment program in both directions. So we actually have investment tools called bonds. They're corporate bonds that we sell in the UK. And then we move that money into Ukraine and invest them into the opportunities here. And there is absolutely a ton of opportunities. And that's why I bring on our special guests to talk about these things. And tonight I'm extraordinarily excited to introduce you to Gordon, and I'll let him introduce his full name and who he is and everything. But this evening I'm really looking forward to it. And as you know me, I like to talk, and I know knowing Gordon, he enjoys talking as well. So we will try to keep our segment within the 45-minute, maybe 50 or 51-minute range. But I'll keep an eye on the clock on that, because we have a lot to cover. And you know, there's so much going on, not just in Ukraine, but just in the world in investment and opportunities. And we're losing a lot of instruments that are safe. You know, I mean, where are you going to put your money? In crypto? You're going to put it in currency exchange? You're going to put it in the stock market? A lot of volatility. Even real estate is not as stable as it was 2 or 3 decades ago. There's a lot of volatility there. I got caught in the 2008 collapse, when the market crash happened, and houses that were going for 300, 400, 500,000 were now worth 180, 150, 75, and 60,000. And a lot of people were so upside down they just walked away from their homes. So what do we do about all of this? How can we protect our investment? And I know smart investors, seasoned investors, they don't take a lot of risks. They look for the opportunities that give them the returns and the gains that are above the inflation, and they know that their money is growing and they're not losing on that. So that's why I'm really happy to have Gordon here, and we got a great conversation ready for you. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce you to Gordon. So Gordon, thank you very much for joining us today and taking your time out of your schedule to be here. So tell us about you and tell the audience a little bit about your background, where you're from, and things like that.
Okay, my name is Gordon Gurr. I come from the state of Utah, Salt Lake City, and in the beautiful mountains and canyons of Utah. I've spent a lot of time in Ukraine over the last couple decades. I've been here many times for many different things. I have a business background in university, business administration, as well as a public relations communication degree. I've done some communication, television, radio, as well as done some film acting. I even did a film here with Adine plus Adine Studios years ago, and some political work as well. There's some principles that I've learned through growing business that I've just come up with and put a list together of things that I see as very valuable, good habits, good principles to keep to and to keep remembering when you build a business. And one of them, my mentality has been lean and mean. Don't overexpend, but in fact, one time I was working in California for someone, and he had different jobs he didn't want. He says, if you want to go bid this job, you can do it. I went in, I bid the job. It was putting in sod and new grass and landscape.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I didn't know, but I took the information. I went down to the sod store, found out what it cost. I found out all the details. I came back and asked for a contract and for half the money down. I took that half the money down, went and bought an old truck, bought all the sod, put it all together. So literally no investment. And now I had a truck, now I had a little business, and I was in business.
You say that, and this is the one area that we hadn't really talked about.
Right.
That's exactly how I got started in the contract business. I was in sprinklers actually, and then sod. And you are absolutely right. I mean, each job paid for the equipment and paid for the vehicles that I needed. and still had a profit to pay for your food and pay for your housing and everything like that. And that's exactly the way I got started in the industry.
Interesting.
That is very fascinating. That's why I really enjoyed our first meeting a couple weeks ago. It was amazing because we were just sitting having lunch and talking, and we were just spinning off of one another. And that's why I invited you to come to the show. You have such a valuable commodity, which is your brain and your experience, that is really, you can't be bought. It's not something that you can just go to the store and put from the shelf and put it in there. This is something that you've lived over the years of your life and put together, and that's what I really wanted to focus on. You shared something with me on text, on our messaging, and you wrote kind of a list of things down, and I really appreciated how you wrote that. So like that, if you want to take a few moments just to kind of go through those points, and then we'll talk about them this evening.
Okay, I'll do that. And I agree with you. This is an amazing commodity, and if you engage that brain, which a lot of people don't, a lot of people don't even think, they just kind of go along. And to engage that and to learn, have curiosity, to seek solutions, amazing things you can find when you must.
Yes.
When you have to. When
your back's against the wall, it's amazing what you can produce.
What you come up with, and with the right attitude. I would honor my mother. This week's an anniversary of her passing, and she taught me to believe. She never taught me can't.
Okay.
And can't is I can't understand it.
Can't do anything. That's what my mother always said. Can't do anything.
You may decide it's more difficult than it's worth, and you may decide not to do it. But life's about choosing.
Yes.
And
yes.
I was an athlete, and I was MVP in football, and I was undefeated in wrestling for a time, and I thought about wrestling in the Olympics. I thought, you know what? I think I probably could, but it wasn't worth the investment for what I would get out of it. I walked away.
Okay.
I may not have met, and one little accident, you just lost.
You lost everything.
5 years of your life.
Yeah.
So those are things about life. It's about choosing and solving. Problems are to find solutions. So as I looked at some of these ideas, here's a couple of the ideas I came up with, a list of. First of all, very important in business to remember, customer is king. Keep them happy. Good customer service and relations. You've got to keep those customers happy. Without customers to buy your product or services, your business collapses.
Exactly.
You don't have a business.
Yeah. It could be exciting in the beginning, because it's new, it's fresh, and it has its own appeal, and people are curious about it. But to maintain it, and if you don't have that mentality, your business is going to wane, and it's going to start depreciating.
That customer retention. I mean, there's a cost of obtaining a customer, whether it's advertising or whatever it is, however you're working. But then you want to keep them. I was in the Dnepropetrovsk yesterday. I went into Buzata, which is one of my favorite places in Ukraine. Beautifully decorated, nice, and you can see right the food. You know what it is. You just take it. You don't have to try and translate everything. But I'd seen this pistachio cake, and I wanted to try it. So I went in there, and the guy at the dessert desk, he just was on his phone. And after about 5, 6, 7 seconds, I just said, almost sarcastically, "Are you busy?" He barely looked up. He gave me almost no attention. And he finally I told him, finally he put it over there. And I was so offended. I just thought, you know what? I don't really want to pay for this cake. It destroyed the whole thing.
Turn your experience off. Yeah.
That kind of thing is important, because I've really enjoyed that place. And I ended up with a bad opinion and attitude, actually. And customers can do that. And if you go in and please the customer, they will come back and they will tell others. If you offend them, they'll say, "Oh, they're the jerks over there." Yeah, you got to be careful both ways.
It's amazing. The good reports are about 7 in 100. The bad reports are 90 to 100. I mean, it's like the bad reports everybody talks about, but the good reports kind of doesn't go as deeply. And so you definitely don't want to create any bad reports, because that's going to be exponential and really hurt.
Yes. And you might even, in keeping in touch with your business and your customers, you want to know what their complaints are to try and solve them, try and bring those to a positive.
Yeah, one of them is don't let employees have their phones on the front line.
That was very troubling to me. Yeah. It's like he didn't care about his job, and maybe he didn't. And that's sometimes a problem with employees, or even if you have your own business. You've got to care about it.
Right.
If you don't care about it, you lose interest in it, you're going to have problems.
We'll talk about that a little bit after you go through a couple of these things. But one thing I want to touch on is when you talk about the employee, sometimes employees don't have incentive to do anymore because they're going to get paid the same whether you're there or not, and which takes away really the incentive for the employee to want to be there. It's like, well, why should I work harder when I'm going to get paid the same if I work less?
Yeah.
And so then that brings kind of an attitude in, which is a non-customer service attitude.
Right.
And so we're going to actually address that a little bit here. Not every store, because retail stores is not something you can really do, but even in my retail store, I worked for GNC. I became one of the managers of GNC stores. Mm-hmm. They have incentives. They have, it's called, oh shoot, I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a bonus on certain products that you sell. And so when you sell those products, you're actually getting more than your base salary. Those are incentives, and it actually stimulates, and the companies who put the products on there with those bonuses on those products, it is designed to produce sales.
Yes.
And so there are ways to work retail to give incentive to your employee. Okay.
And that's the natural incentive of doing your own business. There's a risk. You got to put out your capital, your time, your sacrifice, your ideas, and the risk is that you will get rewarded.
Yes.
And we have politics in our country sometimes that now want to punish success. And there's a mentality that you have to overcome that I've seen here I've spent a lot of time in different post-Soviet countries, mm-hmm. where a businessman is a bandit, they'd say.
Right.
And there's got to be a trust for business to succeed. And of course, a great man once said, Ronald Reagan, trust but verify. So trust is important, but you also need to do your research.
Yeah.
Okay, so customer is king. That was, I think, number one, good relations with your customers. Number two, sales is everything. You've got to develop trust in buyers and your customers. I mean, if you don't sell,
you're not getting anything. Yeah.
Almost anything you do, services or products.
Everything. Do you know that every engineer, even though he's not working in sales, the company he's working, that is engineering for, the company he's working for, has sales, or he wouldn't have an engineering job.
That's right.
And so it doesn't matter what, I mean, engineers are important, and they get good salaries for what they do. So we need our engineers, but the point is the engineer is needed for a purpose for the person who is selling to sell the product because he engineered it. And it can get out to the consumer for the consumer's benefit, and sales is paramount. And there isn't a single company out there that doesn't live off of sales, including the internet,
including hospitals. I was in a hospital here last week, and they quoted me certain things, and then it came out different. I went to him. I says, I'm considering an $11,000 operation here, and if you don't correct some of these things, that's going to affect my opinion, how I can trust your hospital.
Right.
We went through. It took an hour. It was quite tedious. We went through the whole bill. They knocked off a good 10%, $100 came off, which is mm-hmm. very reasonable here. But to me, that helped a lot.
Yeah.
That they were willing to look at that and honor that. Mm-hmm. That gave me a lot more trust for that business, even a hospital.
Yeah.
And a lot of times in the U.S. we don't do that because everything's insured and, it's expensive, I don't care. Well, you got to care because without responsibility in whatever it is, prices go falsely high. Mm-hmm. So responsibility is important in business and communicating. Okay, so customer is king, sales is everything. Number three, of course, buy low, sell high. That's the idea.
Right.
You're in business to make a profit.
Correct.
And but a key thing, in my opinion, you need to increase the value by your own work, especially in real estate. Some people, they go buy a house and they're going to pay some expensive contractor to fix it up. Mm-hmm. You've got to be able to increase the value somewhat, if not completely, by your own work. And that's what I've done. I've learned everything, done it all myself.
Right.
And that's how I've kept lean and mean, kept the prices lower, the costs lower, and the loans lower.
Right.
To do it. And if you don't know it, you can go on the internet and learn all kinds of things, and do it yourself.
True, yeah, there's definitely a lot of self-help things. I mean, some of those things come on my feeds, like Facebook feeds and YouTube, so then they're just automatically there.
Yeah.
As a contractor, you get certain types of feeds that nobody else will. But I look at it and I go, oh, that's a great hack. I mean, that's something and because we're in the industry, it stays here.
Yeah.
Because it clicks, it puts the pieces together. And when I built my first house, I never built a house before, but I already knew that I could. Because I as a contractor, I was a landscape contractor originally, and as a landscape contractor, I'm landscaping all the new construction, all the new buildings, and I'm watching everything. I'm looking at all the details and everything, and I said, you know what, I can do that, and then I built the first house. And I use a lot of the takes from here, takes from there and there to create what I thought would be efficient, thought it would be good. It's ergonomically sound and everything, so that everything flows and works together within the home as a living space. And it's in your industry. It clicks in here and it stays.
And you notice things. I'm in a great museum in Dnepropetrovsk yesterday, day before, and I'm looking at the moldings, thinking, wow, it's amazing how the architecture in this room, here's all the painting, the artifacts.
Right.
I'm like, wow,
and you're looking up.
I got to take a picture. Look how they put these moldings on the ceiling. It's fantastic.
And you and I know the work that went behind that. We know the expense that goes behind it and the time.
Yeah, and that appreciation is good. If you have a heart of gratitude for your customers, for your opportunity, for your mind that it works, for solutions you're able to come up with, I mean, for crazy things like this little thing we carry around and the amazing things we can do with this.
Right.
I run my entire multi-million-dollar business off this dumb old phone.
I use it, it's my computer, a sole computer.
Yeah.
But I'm still probably only using 10% of its ability.
I don't even know how you use the thing. I'm going to take some classes when I get back. But it's just, that kind of gratitude and attitude is really helpful.
Right.
And the curiosity and the vibrancy of life, if you can keep that, and even if you're bored with something, you can create a curiosity. And if you get those habits of creating an interest, you'll do much better.
So it's interesting that you brought that point up, because a couple weeks ago, and even last week, I reiterated on that. But I was talking about when we were children. And sometimes when you wake up, because as children we don't really have control over our emotions. Our parents actually help us on that.
Teach us how to feel almost. Or
right.
If it's scary, if we're supposed to cry, they'll teach you.
Right. But they also correct us or discipline us if we're just going to have a bad attitude and have our temper tantrum and stuff like that when it's unnecessary. They get in the way of that. They prevent that emotion from just going amok. And so I shared about my mother, that I would be walking out. I just woke up, got out of bed, and I was walking out, just kind of not pouting, not in a bad mood, but just not in a mood. I just wasn't in a good mood. I was, my frown was down. I was like this, and she goes, what kind of mood is that? And she kind of addresses it, and I look at her, and she says, we say hello or good morning, when you walk in the room and somebody's in there.
Yeah.
And like, good morning, and she says, where's your smile? And you don't want to smile, right? Because you're just kind of in that low mood. And I talked about this, that she said it again, and of course you start feeling the corners of your lips going up because you can't help it. And then all of a sudden the smile goes up, and the smile has a string attached to your heart, and it immediately lifts the spirit of your heart. Worked 100% of the time, and I did it with my children, and it worked every time. And now we're not children anymore, we're adults. And this is actually a key point, because it's actually the attitude and the approach. And sometimes you're going to come into low points of your career, so low points of your business, low bad weeks, bad days, whatever. What are you going to do innovatively? What are you going to do to change it? What do you need to do to create some energy in that? Because the energy relies on you as the owner, and as a business owner and the entrepreneur, not your employees. You carry the attitude, you carry the atmosphere, you carry the spirit of the place.
I have a very helpful paralegal that does research for me and a lot of things, but she's always quick to, you got to give them the notice, get them illegal, evict them, boom, boom, boom.
Right.
Get the law down now. And she's probably right a lot of times, because I'm the other way. It's like, I want to turn this customer, this bad customer, quote unquote, into a good customer.
Right.
Try and talk to him and work something out that works for both of us. Win-win.
Right.
There's a great Stephen R. Covey. He always taught the principle win-win in negotiation. You ought to make it win for both of you. And that's my idea. I try that with tenants as much as I can. Let's turn them into, make something that works for them, turn them into a good tenant.
Right, and if they appreciate that, they'll be more loyal to you anyway, because if you're not the one that's just like, with the attitudes that, I got this, excuse the French, asshole of a landlord,
It's almost automatic with tenants. They just
They feel that way.
think that.
Right.
So you have to kind of show them another way. You know, I really want you to be happy here.
As you said here, a lot of the employees here in Ukraine, you know, the owner is the bandit,
Right.
you know, the bandit.
Yeah.
He's the one that just looks to steal and doesn't give me anything,
Yeah.
which I wanted to address. But as a landlord, we can turn that around. My landlord, I absolutely adore. I love my landlord. She has been very gracious. She's been very good. She even lowered the rent during the invasion, and she knew that our company wasn't earning anything, and so like, she helped out without me asking a thing. She voluntarily, on the March 1st, said, "Look, you've already paid half," and she says, "That's all I'm asking for until the war's over."
Yeah.
And she's been absolutely gracious. We worked well together, and I'm thankful for her, you know, and I like working with her.
We had tenants that said when COVID came up, "Oh, we don't have to pay rent, right? Because it's COVID." Like, well, I still have to pay the bank. I can't
Right.
tell the insurance company. I can't tell what there is. I'm not in charitable. I'm in a business. I have to pay.
Right.
And you're the only one. So I says, but there are charity things set up, and I help them find where you could apply for some help if they lost their job, things, and I help them with their paperwork that way. Then that blessed me as well as them.
As them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they may not have had those resources.
Yeah, and I helped research find those and
That's
those kind
innovation.
of things.
There you go.
Right.
See that, and that's as an entrepreneur, as a businessman, as a businesswoman. These are the things that you have to really consider and think about for yourself to grow and to think out of the norm of what you're used to seeing around you and what maybe you've been taught. It's really all about you and the personality and the attitude that you take that's going to make the difference. And it's not, you know, you said buy low, sell high. Okay, that's for margins. That's for profitability, and that's how business survives. You know, so you buy your product or you make your product at this price and you sell it at X amount. Maybe it's 5 times more, 4 times more, you know, whatever is the market will bear. Maybe it can be 10 times more. But whatever the market can bear on that, you get an X amount above what you are consuming that product for to bring out to the consumer. So that's just part of the whole spectrum. And we all have employees as a business person. And how we treat our employees is going to determine whether they're going to call you the bandit,
Yeah.
or the one that they're loyal and they really care about, and it's like, you know, I'll work for this guy for the next 20 years. You know, I'll work for this woman for the next 20, 30 years until I retire. You know, it's not just customer loyalty, but it's employee loyalty that comes really from your spirit, comes from your heart, and
Exactly.
how you work with them and how you're treating them.
If you can connect with them that way and they feel that, and you really are sincere to help them to solve their own situations and to make solutions that work, they will, like you say, be committed to solving things. I have one tenant now that really is going out of her way to make a lot of other things work, even though she's out of work because of an injury, and I've suggested different things. But she's doing a lot out of extra things to help things at the building happen. Yeah, so that's true. You want to have that human touch involved,
Exactly.
and be real.
Exactly.
And yeah, this smile thing, it is odd how it works. And even in a store, you know, I was at a beautiful concert, and I wanted to go tell the musicians. Sometimes the thanks is tell them it was beautiful, the music was powerful and incredible,
Right.
and the applause is a part of the payment.
It
and
is.
even in a store, the smile, you smile at your customers, boom, that will bring something across.
Oh, yeah.
This man
Yeah.
staring at his phone at Buzata Hata, if he'd have looked up and says, "Oh, how are you?" or whatever.
Yeah, excuse me, pardon me, I didn't see you there.
I just felt like I was troubling his life, and I thought, okay, well, sarcastic. Well, I don't want to bother you. I'm so sorry. I felt like apologizing.
Right.
Sarcastic. I'm so sorry I troubled you in your phone there, you know. But so you have to be careful about those things. Those impressions are noticeable by humans, customers. The customer's king. And we could move on to the next one. Let's
Sure.
see. Like the curiosity, always, number 4, I put always be learning, including learning your customers' wants and complaints. Complaints?
Yes.
You want to know their complaints, because if they're just upset and complain and run away, and you don't know it, how do you solve it? And they'll go complain to others. So even a complaint box or communication to understand what their problems are. And you don't want to argue, oh, you're wrong, yeah, we did perfect. No, you want to hear them and give some validity to their complaint and see if you can remedy that, like this hospital did for me. I said, this isn't what you told me, and that concerns me. If I'm going to put sort of my life in your hands, I want to trust you. And if you're changing the story, that troubles me. So that's part of that is very important.
And that's also another, I mean, every one of these are so valid because these are little intricate pieces to a puzzle to make a whole, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times as an owner and as a business owner, we get prideful.
Yeah.
And when we just think that we know it, and we really don't want to hear from our employees, and we don't want to hear it from our customers. And we don't have that contact on a daily basis like our employees do. They're in the battlegrounds. They're in the field all the time. We aren't necessarily, because we have many other spectrums and aspects to handle in the company, so we're not necessarily on the storefront all the time, depending on our growth. I mean, if we're chief cook and bottle washer, then yes. But if we're not, then we have to trust our employee to give us proper information, correct information. And if our employee trusts us that we're not going to sit there and shout them down and say, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, don't put up with that, blah, 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 and make them feel stupid for coming to us, they'll stop coming to us, and then our company's going to suffer. But if we have that ability to be able to listen to them and says, what is the customer saying? Or even asking employees, maybe they're not voluntarily giving it to us, says, hey, guys, what's the overall atmosphere here? What are some of the complaints that people have been giving us? Maybe something we can be working on or helping, and maybe something I can be working on. Not you work on it, but sometimes what do I need to do? Yeah, we can work on it as a team. We can work on it together, like a family.
You want them to feel open to tell you what really they see, because they're on that front line.
Correct.
And there's one, you used the word jackass a while ago. I'm going to use it again, times 10.
That's actually a nicer version of what I said, but yes, jackass.
Okay, I'm not sure what it was, but there's a guy east of here that's doing terrible things.
Right.
And no one will tell him, okay, poop pants Putin, this ain't working, you can't do this isn't going to work, because he'll probably kill them. He doesn't have any kind of relationship to get actual facts. So that's an extreme example, but very pertinent here. And in business, you want your people to be able to come to you and say, you know what, that's not working. We really need to do it different. Because they know things, they see things that we may not see as the owner. And you're saying, I've got this, Trump.
I got my way of doing it.
People said, Trump he's so cocky. And I think, well, gosh, if I could buy the Empire State Building and airlines, I have a few old houses and I feel a little confident, but it's ridiculous. Yeah. But that humility is important. That human aspect is important. You have these things, of course, because of your creativity and your hard work, but you also because of your customers. And you need to rely on keeping them feeling good and that you care. That really will help maintain your growth in your business.
I'm going to be starting up the Keys Western Saloon here. And I don't think I talked a little bit about it before, about the Country Western Saloon that I was opening. Did we have that conversation?
I'm not sure. I don't recall.
At lunch,
but where we had lunch was kind of a Country Western decor. It was fantastic.
that was Pervok. I love Pervok. It was a very and it was also Western Ukraine, all of Ukraine, different places.
There's a lot of creative. I went to a restaurant in Dnipropetrovsk. Caught my eye because it said Gurmania. And my name's Gurr. I thought, Gurmania, this is perfect. I went in, why are you calling it Gurmania? None of the employees knew. They didn't really know much. But they allowed me to walk around and incredible different 8 pieces of history all through the restaurant.
So my audience knows that I'm opening up the Country Western Saloon. And hopefully in 3 to 4 months, we just started the campaign for crowdfunding. But along the process, I've been putting the outline together, and everything. And I have a standard that I put together. In other words, everything that I put in my thoughts, I laid it out. But I've also been presenting this to thousands of people, and also getting a feel and learning the community and everything to see if this is the right thing to bring to Ukraine, which is absolutely perfect. But along the way, there's things that I had to adjust, because local people were saying, you know what, giving them 10% off or giving them 15% off Ukrainians like free things. The percentage doesn't really tantalize them.
Yeah.
If it's 70% off, yeah, of course they go in there and they buy their Gucci bags or whatever, they buy their Italian suits and stuff. But because I did on mine when it was 70% off, but it's the free things. I go, oh, okay, I need to implement that into my program on how to present and give something free for what you're doing for the saloon, to help us to open and stuff, And so when I put my campaign together for the crowdfunding, I said the best way to do it is to, how do you a saloon? Okay, this is a restaurant, it's a bar, and it's a dance hall. It's going to have live music and DJ music, so it's going to have both mixed in there. But it's going to we're going to give free dance lessons every evening on country two-step and country swing and country waltz and line dancing and all that. They're going to, and Ukraine is a dance culture. They love to dance. And whether it's their own
Hopak.
their folk dance, ballet, whether it's bachata, swing. I mean, it's just they love to dance, and so we're bringing a new genre and a new culture. But and so I implemented a membership program that gave so whatever level of membership, I call it the dollar campaign. So for $1 or 40 hryvnia, you get a temporary membership that allows you 5 visits with 5 free drinks and percentage off of your food and beverages. But you come in, you immediately get something for free. And so for 40 hryvnia or $1, you're getting 750 hryvnias worth of free drinks.
Is this our sponsor? I'm sorry, just
it's a
gratuitous plug here.
Station identification, our sponsor.
Very good. Sounds interesting.
But again, I had to adjust that. I had to. So I listen.
See what brings them in, what motivates people.
What's going to really motivate and what's really going to trigger someone to do that. So that's we have to, as owners, we can't be dogmatic. We can't be stuck on our own philosophies and our own thoughts. We have a philosophy, we stick to our morals, and we stick to our philosophies, but we're also adjustable to be able to fit in what works for the consumer.
This is number 5 in my list, but 4 was, like you're saying, you got to learn what the culture is, what people are motivated by, understanding the competition as well.
Yes.
What they're looking at instead of you, so you can see what will motivate them. But on to number 5, I put be flexible and creative with your products and the markets.
Yep.
Invent a better mousetrap, is one of the sayings. If you have a more interesting way to do something, people will be curious about it. Times change. Be ready to adapt and change. Like, there's an example in my business school. We talked about Union Pacific. They were mistaken. They thought they were a railroad. Mm-hmm. And, well, if they would have thought we're a transportation company, a little broader thought, we might be flying Union Pacific Airlines now. But they were stuck in the mentality, we're a railroad. And now, at least in the U.S., most people just fly.
Right.
And we don't take trains hardly at all.
Amtrak is not, Amtrak's like a
government subsidy, basically.
Yeah, well, and it's right. And it's the trip, if you go coast to coast on the Amtrak, or if you go from north to south on the Amtrak, they're like scenic, and it's like a vacation. It's no longer a source of transportation.
And that was one idea. You've got to be open to what the next horizon and venture is for your company.
Yes.
Or you may just completely lose your company. And I had a partner years ago. It was all this about video stores. He says, we're going to charge this much. I says, what happens when video rentals go to $1? Oh, it'll never go to $1. Boom, they did. He lost all of his chain. He lost many stores. I had one store.
They went beyond just $1. They kept going. They were hurt.
And then they're gone. Yeah, every video store is gone.
Every video, it's gone.
So that's things that happen. You have to be ready.
Yeah.
And be ready to change quickly when it's time. Let's see. So that's a very important principle. Number 6, I put down reinvest in the business. Take your profits. Don't justify consuming your profits. Even that self-lie of saying, well, I'm a successful businessman, I deserve this or that. For me, I've always put every penny, dumped it on my loans. And of course, the high-interest loans, first you want to get rid of those, because those high interest will eat you alive. And So pay off your high interest. Beware of, the consuming the profits.
Right.
But
yeah, that's true.
so that's again on the ego,
Now,
humility.
You,
area.
when we first met and you were talking, and one of the things that really stuck out to me, I had a young man. He's 30 years old and a great investor, and he's done very well. He's from Singapore, lived in Australia for over 5 years, got his education there, and started his investment portfolio in Australia. And as a young man, and he's been building that, and he's been working, and he set a budget to live on, and he first worked towards reaching that passive income to bring that there, and then he set that budget that he does not exceed. Now that's living lean and mean.
Yeah.
Because the temptation is, as you take on, let's say you double that, right? So all of a sudden you have a budget of $2,500 to live on monthly. And all of a sudden now your passive is $5,000. The temptation is to, let me bump that to $3,500, or let me bump that to $4,000 of living expense, and live a little bit more high on the hog, as we say, and always keeping your reinvestment thin. Now the wealthy people do the opposite. They keep it mean and lean, and they make their reinvestments very thick.
Yeah.
And so that's how they build the wealth that they build. And that takes a lot of discipline. And you were sharing some of the disciplines you took on, which goes to the lean and mean, and how you create your budget in the beginning for your lifestyle, for your family, and then anything you work above that is what you are now rolling into your investments.
I originally put every dollar into the loans, and I have a working capital HELOC, a home equity loan that I can come in and out of. So conveniently, I just put every penny in there, boom. Then if I need something, there's a water bill, it comes out of that.
Okay.
And so I don't touch the money. I don't really see it. It just all goes there. And then if I need something, it's a real need, it comes out of there.
Okay.
So I borrow it back. And I got property taxes coming up, although I just put a lot of money on a mortgage, because when the property taxes come up at the end of this month, I'll just borrow whatever I need out of it at that time. Yeah. So it's a nice working.
And that's a relationship you have with your bank on that to work at the HELOC system. Not everybody has that. And in Ukraine, they don't have
that so much.
They don't have that here at all.
Yeah.
They don't have those kind of investment or those borrowing instruments that we do in America here. So everybody pays cash for most everything. Their car they pay cash for, their homes they pay cash for, and stuff like that. But you can still loan money to yourself and pay yourself interest.
That's right.
There's some great wealthy men, and I'm trying to think who was one of them. It wasn't.
There was a Dave Ramsey that does a show in America. He says,
"Yeah, Dave Ramsey."
You know Dave Ramsey?
Yeah, I know him.
When you said lean and mean, he says his motto is, "Now live like nobody else, so in the future you can live like nobody else."
Right.
In other words, I mean, really, my clothing has been secondhand store basically for the last 15 years.
Okay.
Because I just put all the money on my loans, because I don't like paying that high interest. I want to get the hell rid of that. And even I told myself, when flat screen TVs come out, I will not buy one of those until I'm out of debt. Well, I saw one at a garage sale. I says, what's wrong with it? Oh, nothing. We just have too many. Like, it was like $10. Like, okay, I can buy the damn thing.
Yeah.
So, and then I saw another one at for $1 at a secondhand store, and it worked perfect. Well, I had a teeny red line, so I made the executive decision to kick in a buck and got a second one. So,
okay.
But anyway, those are kind of discipline guidelines you set up so to not be temptations.
The temptation, right?
Oh, the marketing, they tempt you to take your money. You got to be tough sometimes.
That's right. Yeah, it is, and that's exactly what marketing is for. I'm in marketing. I've been in marketing all my life.
It's professional to free you of your money.
Why would I sell you a used vacuum cleaner when I can sell you a brand new Kirby?
Yeah.
And I knew the Kirby in and out, and it's, you're going to pay $2,000 for it versus the $50 or the $10 vacuum cleaner. Yeah. I'm going to sell you $2,000. So
always watch for the upsale. If you come in to buy this.
Yes.
Well, would you like a large order of fries with that? I mean, McDonald's is good with the upsale.
Oh yeah.
They teach their people; they're very good.
Supersize, right?
And on McDonald's, they take one of the cheapest products in Ukraine. the potato, right?
Right.
It costs just about the same as dirt, maybe just a little more or maybe a little less in some cases. They take that potato, they cut it up and fry it, and they sell it to you for, I mean, what? It
$1
starts
something,
at
right?
6 grivna per kilogram, and now it goes for like 80 grivna for a kilogram. I don't know.
Right.
But it's an incredible markup. And then they take water, which is basically free, filter it, put some sugar and flavor in it, and they sell you that for a couple bucks for a cupful.
Oh, in America, we pay more for water than we do gasoline.
And the bottled water.
The bottled water, yeah. And of course, the marketing of it is that if you drink out of a tap, it's going to kill you.
Yeah.
You know, so the marketing is all about. So,
and there's some fashion in which kind you drink. I mean, that sells too.
But I mean, it's 99 cents for a little bottle of water.
Yeah.
You know, and you get, and so it's less than a quart of water you're paying 99 cents for. Less than a quart. That's over $5 a gallon of water.
Yeah.
That's free. Gasoline that you have to it costs less, $3.25 for gas per gallon. You know, so it's always astounded me that we're paying more for water that's free than gasoline that you have to get out of the ground and make and
Now you mentioned Kirby Vacuum, I believe it was, or a vacuum.
Yes.
My uncle Murray Rawson, he was a very successful in many ways, very inspiring, very kind gentleman, and always loved to go to Uncle Murray and Aunt Anna's house. They had a big, beautiful home. But he started out, he's a multi-millionaire, back when $1 million was a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 50 years ago, whatever. But he started selling vacuum cleaners door to door.
Mm-hmm.
And he learned how to understand people and get their trust. And he learned many things working with people that he later became trusted to. He oversaw the missionaries over the entire world for the Church of Jesus Christ,
Mm-hmm.
and he was the president over several missions and many projects. But beyond that, he started a chain of stores and made millions and millions of dollars. Because I think a lot of it was because of how he understood people, door to door, and he got close to them. He told me, he says, Gordon, keep working. You don't have to stop and count it. Just keep working. It'll add up.
Yeah.
And that's a principle. You know, the king is in his counting house counting out his money. You're too obsessed with that.
What is the gambler's song with Kenny Rogers? You don't count your money when you're sitting at the table.
There you go.
There'll be plenty of time accounting when the dealing's done.
Okay.
So in that principle, it's the same thing. You know, if you're over here really focusing on this, you're missing the opportunities. Just making it. You know.
I had a friend from California. He was here in Poltava years ago, and he talked to me. He says, "Gordon, how come you work so much? You're rich." Like, what? So I talked to Zillow, and they said, "Yep, you're rich." Like, good grief.
Zillow, they little overinflate things a little bit, not too much, but
could be. But anyway, because I hadn't counted that much, I just kept working and building. And he says, "Get over here and enjoy. I've got dentists I'll set you up with." And so
there's a balance there, you know, because we have vacation's important, so times off are important, you know, and you have to budget those things. And there's a balance on that of just working until you die, and then really enjoy the fruit of your labor, right?
Exactly.
There's another time that it is important to enjoy the fruit of your labor. That's why we work. That's why we're businessmen. That's why we're entrepreneurs, because we want to work outside of the punch card, the time clock, as we say it, where you work for somebody else and your salary is fixed. And you have to show up on Monday morning, which is usually the most dreaded time after the weekend, and get yourself back in the groove. And then by Friday, you're excited to go back for the weekend. And you live your whole life based on the salary that you're making there, and you want to live beyond that. That's why you're an entrepreneur. That's why you're a businessman. That's why you're an investor. By the way, philanthropy and investors are entrepreneurs, because they're making their money work for them. Their money is their employees. And placing that money is the important parts of letting that growth come in there, So, that's part of Andesite Blue. We provide a particular instrument for investors to get a decent rate of return. It's in the UK, so they're getting British pound on their investment, but they're getting on an average 8%. I say average because of you have several angles that you can come in on. 3-year, 5-year bond, whether you have a quarterly, annual, or bullet payment. those things are going to change the interest rate, but they're fixed once you've made that decision. The rate of returns are higher than the standard inflation, and so people aren't losing their money, but their money is growing on these investments. But again, it's the money is the employee. So the dollar works for me, I don't work for the dollar.
Yeah, and as you've mentioned, the entrepreneurs often are humanitarian and able to make choices. Like Ramsey said, then you're able to bless other people. And I mean, I have a love for Ukraine, and so many good people here. They're so helpful. It's just really touches my heart, and to see these problems happening here. I came over, I had the freedom to choose to come over here early on in the attacks a year and a half ago, and I helped people in Poland, and then I decided to come on in, and I spent time in the country, and then I've come back for the last couple months. I've been here now working on some potential projects that I've proposed to a humanitarian group we're working on, and it's, you know, I hear friends say, "Oh, I have 2 days off in 8 months, and then the next year I'll have 3 days." I'm like, good grief.
Yeah.
I mean, it just took 2 months. Of course, when you have a problem, you got to solve it. And at 2 in the morning, I'm on the phone here, 2 in the morning till 5 or 6 in the morning a lot of times. I'm around the clock. And that's a bit of a sacrifice, but the freedom is nice.
Yeah,
when you got a problem, you got to do it, or it doesn't get done sometimes.
And and that's absolutely that's what we work for, and that's the point of being able to reap what you've sown.
Yeah.
You know, you sow in hard work, you sow in a life of discipline, you sow, and there's a point of return on that.
Yeah.
Even in the Bible, it talks about our reward is in heaven, but it's also on earth.
Yeah.
And he says you will be blessed in the time to come and now. And so by doing these things, by sowing good seed, by sowing into your life, by sowing into others' lives, you have an opportunity to reap. And sometimes someone else is going to reap a different, off of what you've sown, but they might be the harvesters, but you're the producer. You're the one. You're all going to be able to benefit on the same harvest, and we're all going to be able to reap. And we do have to take that time. You and I, I'll never stop working. I'll never stop investing. I'll never stop. I'll never stop starting businesses. Right.
But if you enjoy it, if you do things and you get the right attitude that you enjoy it, it's not.
It's not work.
It's an adventure. And there's a lot of adventures. I've been here. I've done work here, and sometimes things are difficult, the hours and different things. But it's an adventure, and it's an experience. And I mean, I came out of this hospital with some scary news on my heart, and I jumped on a night train and went to the other side of the country, and I'm walking carefully, and I think, I had a lot of emotions, but I'm alive, and I feel I'm alive emotionally, and I'm seeing things that are amazing, and being careful. But what you mentioned, God, and God has a principle. Everything God creates and gives to us, and our brains, our strength, our health, whatever it is, and He just asks 10% back. And that principle of giving back is a true valuable principle in business.
Yep.
Some people might choose to do it in different ways, or through the church, and to bless people.
Yeah,
and that's a good
or through the volunteers, which we see a lot here. It's volunteering their time, giving their time of the humanitarian need. And they're not getting, we don't do this. I volunteer, I know you volunteer. We don't do this for the reward of some significance or some fame or some glory in it and stuff like that. We do it because we want to. We do it because of the joy. We do it because we love Ukraine, and we do it because the people are so wonderful. So we could go on and on. We need to tie this up.
One last thing I
put go ahead.
Is, and of course I think it's high, and maybe it's a good ending, is the tithe, and keeping that flow. You want to keep a flow. You don't want to be too tight. You need to flow, and that tithing, or that humanitarian charity that God has set up, at 10%, is a good flow. But also I would say one of the things that's important, keep an emergency operating funds available, or a line of credit like I have. So if you have some unforeseen happen, you're not going to lose your business. You want to keep some protection, some cash on hand.
And that's smart, especially as starting a new business.
Yeah.
Sure, I've done some all-ins. I put it all in that it was make it or break it, type thing. That if
I have a friend, he calls himself the millionaire maker. Well, he builds up $1 million and then every third year he goes bankrupt. Like, what's the point? And he did a little tricky thing against me, and I says, hey, I don't owe this money, you owe this money, you put a mortgage here, pay the money. He goes, I'm bankrupt and I'm suicidal. Like, okay. What do you do with that? So you want to have a consistency. You don't want to do crazy up and down. You want to keep some stability mentally.
That's where discipline comes in, and also having a group of people to bounce, especially other businesses, other entrepreneurs, and other people who thrive and look at opportunities. You surround yourself with the same like-minded to be able to bounce ideas and to bring security. Many minds does bring a lot of value to knowledge and experience to be able to help you start something that you're unfamiliar with or that you could be afraid to get started with.
And the temptation for these get-rich-quick schemes, as I'll call them, can be very overwhelming, and you have to be careful. Most wealth is built with consistency over time.
Yes, that's right.
And I've gone through weathered the bad times. Hardly was even felt them. Mm-hmm. When other people leveraged to the end, they lost a lot, if not everything.
Yep.
And I barely felt it because I was lean and mean. I kept my overhead low. And those kind of things, and
that's a discipline that I really wanted to present this evening that you were carrying as the young gentleman that I talked about earlier. He's taken on different tactics, but his disciplines were very, very impressive, and that is he created a budget for himself to not exceed.
Yeah.
And so that way he can continue to grow wealth, and he has goals and he has designs at certain time frames to reach. So very smart, and he has seasons too. With the markets and the changes and everything, the fluctuations in the markets. He knows when it's time to work really hard, and he knows times when he can relax.
Yeah.
And he utilizes those times.
It's nice to have that freedom to choose some of those things.
Yeah,
it really is, and choose opportunities like coming here, in Ukraine, and spending some time here. And I had the privilege and honor of meeting a previous President Poroshenko in a beautiful and solemn event honoring a fallen soldier who was a close friend of his, and to see them solemnly march down into Freedom Square and the music playing, it just, I had tears coming as I walked with these soldiers, and it just was beautiful to see the world stop there in Khrishatik, the busy place. It just stopped. People were kneeling along the street. It touched my heart big time.
Sure, yeah.
And the sacrifice, the love that people have for their country and for freedom.
And their heroes, yeah.
It's really beautiful, and it's beautiful to be here and see that. My family says, "Oh, get out! We're worried. It's dangerous." Yes, but there's some beautiful goodness.
Absolutely.
Even in this terrible time, it's a blessing to be able to see and feel and be a part of that.
Yeah, I agree, and and I'm happy, and I know that you're satisfied with the contribution that you can make towards Ukraine and to help Ukraine in its freedom.
Yeah.
So, well, again, thank you for your patience and time on this. I know we went a little bit longer than probably I've done before, but it's very easy to do. I'm with another native speaker from American. We're both from the West Coast of America, and so we kind of have the same language, same age. It's just we're the same generation, so it's just easy just to really have dialogue on and on and on. But we have to call it an end, and we have to say good night. So. I thank you again for joining us this evening. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Have a great week. I look forward to seeing you next week, and we'll have some wonderful topics. Please comment, share our program, and comment below so that I know how this is ministered to you, and hopefully you were able to receive some information that will work for your benefit. So, have a good night. And Slava Ukraina.
I was going to say Slava Ukraina i Slava Boga.
Heroям слава.